Today we're going to talk about how to get into a good university in the United Kingdom. It's well worth going to university if you're interested in a subject that's taught at that level, or if you want a career which requires a university degree. Graduates generally earn more and have a wider range of jobs to choose from. And about 40% of young people go to university these days. And the correct way of going about getting admission to a good university is as follows. First of all, you need to do the right A-level subjects. For engineering, for example, you need to do maths and physics. For medicine, you need to do chemistry and ideally biology and physics. And in order to do those A-levels, you need to have done the right GCSEs which support you going on to take those A-levels. Some A-level subjects keep more university degree course options open to you than others. Maths, further maths, physics, chemistry, biology, modern and ancient languages, English literature, geography, history, philosophy and ethics, economics. These are all subjects which tend to keep more options open. You need to, of course, check the specific course requirements for any degree that you might be interested in. And also, if you look up on the internet Russell Group, R-U-S-S-E-L-L Group, and have a look at their informed choices pages, that gives information about the recommended A-levels for entry to Russell Group universities. That's the 24 most selective universities. Also, to stand out from other applicants and to demonstrate you're capable of independent study, it's a good thing to have done an extended project. And you can do an extended project in almost any topic you choose, but if you're applying to read a subject which is not taught at school, like medicine or archaeology or law in many schools, then do an extended project in the period probably between June of year 12 and October of year 13 to demonstrate that you are able to study independently and have got a real interest in that subject. So that's the first thing. You need to have studied the right subjects in the sixth form. The second thing is you need to have got the right grades. I mean, for Oxford and Cambridge universities, for example, you need to have got about 8 A-star grades at GCSE, or be predicted at least an A-star and 2 A's at A-level. But other universities are less demanding, and the A-level grades that they require can be looked up in Brian Heap's book, University Degree Course Offers. That's H-E-A-P, Brian Heap. And you can buy that book in most bookshops and Smiths. And you can also look up on the website whatuni.com, W-H-A-T-U-N-I.com. Now, some courses are harder to get into than others, and amongst the hardest subjects are medicine, veterinary science and law. And if you look up on the website Unistats, U-N-I-S-T-A-T-S, Unistats, that website gives the A-level scores of students studying each subject at each university. So that's incredibly helpful. Some universities are better than others. It's important to realise that. And in general terms, the most popular universities are those that are the best, and that's why the rank order of universities given in University Degree Course Offers, Brian Heap's book, subject by subject, is a very good indication of their quality. You know, he ranks them from the universities which have the highest A-level grade requirements to those with the lowest, and that's a kind of rank order of quality. Having said that, of course, there are some slightly less well-known universities that offer amazingly good individual courses, like the design courses at Northumbria University, for example. And it's also very important to remember that universities might have quite similar names but be very different universities. So Cardiff University is not the same as Cardiff Metropolitan University, for example. So don't get confused about that. Some universities offer unconditional places. That means that they don't require you to get any particular grades at A-level. And I think it's important to remember that these universities are neither better nor worse than the universities which don't do that. It's a marketing strategy. don't be too tempted by an unconditional offer from a university. There are three types of degree course. There are those, first of all, which lead directly to jobs like medicine, dentistry, fashion design, architecture. And then there are those which don't lead directly to employment, like history or English. But if you study them at a good university, they can quite easily lead on to good jobs. And then there are those which might appear to lead to jobs, but don't. Degree courses like forensic science or journalism or media studies. You might want to be a lawyer or an accountant or a banker or an advertising agent or a journalist, something like that. But you don't need to study those subjects at university. You can be trained after university, whatever subject you've studied. If you're applying for Oxford University or Cambridge, or for medicine or dentistry or veterinary science, you have to apply by early October, a full year before you start. And although other universities have a deadline for application of mid-January, it's best if you can to apply earlier than that. Apply by the end of October if you can, partly because some universities give the best applicants offers on the basis of first come, first served. And there isn't a lot to be gained by delaying your application. If you get all rejections, or you change your mind about the course you want to study or the universities you want to go to, you can apply again between February and mid-July through something called UCAS Extra, and you can look up the details of UCAS Extra on the UCAS website. If you get better A-levels than you expected and you think you could get offers from better universities than you had originally applied for, you can reapply in August after you've got your A-level results through something called UCAS Adjustment. If you get worse A-level results than you were expecting and don't in fact meet any of the offers that you were holding, then you can apply again through UCAS through something called UCAS Clearing, and in that way many students get a place at a university at the last moment. If you're applying to medicine or veterinary science or dentistry, you'll put down 4 choices on your UCAS form. For all other courses and universities, you'll put down 5 choices. You should, generally speaking, only choose one subject or subjects which are very broadly similar for each of those 4 or 5. And the reason is that you have to write a personal statement on your application form. And in your personal statement, you have to explain why it is that you're keen to study the subject you're applying for. And if you've applied for 2 or 3 very different subjects, it's impossible to cover that adequately on the personal statement. And a university won't actually think particularly well of you if you're applying for several very different subjects. It suggests you just can't make your mind up. Now, as far as the location of the university is concerned, if you're planning to live at home while you go to university, then okay, you're going to apply to a university near where you live. Otherwise, you shouldn't worry too much about the location of the university. There's nothing preventing you applying to a university which is a longish way away. And the reason is that university terms are quite short. You won't want to be going home every weekend. And actually, even if you live in the south of England, why wouldn't you apply to a university if it's a good one, as far away as Scotland? A 4-hour train journey is not a barrier to applying to a good university. If you're predicted 3 A's or better at A-level, you can apply to 4 or 5 of the top ranking universities. But if you're not predicted such grades, then you should apply for 3 universities that generally require the grades you're predicted and 2 others which normally ask for lower grades than this. Now, the reason for that is that at the end of the process you can only hold 2 offers, a first choice offer and an insurance offer. So if you were predicted, let's say, an A and 2 B's at A-level, then ideally you'll have a first choice university that asks for an A and 2 B's, and an insurance offer that asks for, let's say, 3 Bs just in case your results are disappointing. There's absolutely no value in having an insurance offer which is the same as or even higher than your first choice offer. So bear that in mind. If you're applying for a vocational course like law or medicine, or a subject which is not normally studied at school like architecture or archaeology, law in many cases, you need to demonstrate on your application form that you've done more than just sit your A-levels. So for medicine, for example, you really have got to do some sort of work experience, working in a hospital for a few weeks or working in an old people's home for a few months. For something like archaeology, you will definitely need to have read a few books and visited some archaeological sites. Some courses, like medicine particularly, have far too many applicants with very good grades, and some excellent applicants struggle to get even one offer. So the sensible thing to do is to find out which medical schools are the most popular and perhaps only apply to one of those. If you don't get an offer to read medicine, but then in the end get 3A grades or better at A-level, then it's worth reapplying after A-level. It does mean you'll have to take a gap year, but a lot of the candidates who do reapply with good A-level grades get an offer to read medicine, so that's worth thinking about. If you're applying to Oxford or Cambridge, try to visit the university on an open day. There are several open days and you need to look them up now to establish when they're coming along. Find out which colleges attract the largest number of applicants. You can find that out from the Oxford and Cambridge websites, and it's probably best not to apply to the most popular colleges, because it's hard enough getting into Oxford and Cambridge as it is. If you're applying for a course that requires you to do a pre-test like the BMAT or the UKCAT for medical applicants, then it's really essential to do practice papers and download all the information you can about those tests from their relevant websites. Because if you do badly in those tests, it's quite difficult to get an offer. So practice them. If you're applying for a course that requires you to have an interview, it's very important to prepare for the interview. Your school should give you practice interviews. And finally, on the question of finances, the details of student loans can be found on the Student Loans website. Because the repayment rate of these loans is quite modest and the loans are written off anyway after 30 years, in recent years the fact of student loans hasn't really put many students off applying to university. Remember what I said at the beginning, and that is that graduates from university have higher career earnings than those who haven't been to university. So that's it. The key thing really is getting the GCSE and A-level grades. If you get those, you'll certainly get into university, no problem. And going to university is something which most students find is incredibly enjoyable and worthwhile and a formative part of their lives.